and only Jim remained.
Yep.
Oh, Lord.
Well, if you're ever going to not get a job, that's it.
Yeah,
That's the way to do it.
You know, yeah. But it goes back to our theory that spite is the greatest source of energy and power in the universe, my man.
Today's episode is brought to you by our therapy partner, Dirty B.
Dirty Bizzle.
From fabulous Las Vegas. This is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, real job interviews, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in for our live election coverage.
Yeah. From a week ago.
Yep. Our predictions will be spot on. Yeah, I guarantee it. And now, broadcasting from the churn, that guy's Dr. Jim Job, and I'm Nick Tangent. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Welcome back, all of our friends. Welcome back to Pod Therapy. We got some great questions for you today, and I hope that everybody's enjoying the fall and the winter weather out there. It's cooling down. It's a rainy day here in Vegas.
Yep. Today's
the day you realize your window wipers have all rotted, right?
Okay, so this is. I was thinking about this on the way back from the gym today. It's something that I never understood. Like I think it's really specific to Las Vegas, or at least in the desert. It's probably the same thing in Palm Springs or Phoenix, whatever. But like, your windshield wipers are just guaranteed to never work.
Why is that?
I'll tell you, I know exactly why it is. It's because you only use them like once or twice a year.
Yes.
And between those uses, they just deteriorate. They're out in the sun.
Do you not use your windshield washer fluid?
No.
What?
You don't hit the little button and spray the windshield with fluid every now and then?
No.
That just makes mud. When you do that, it just makes mud.
Not if you have working windshield wipers, which doing that also helps to keep the windshield wipers working.
You know, I'm going to be honest. With all my heart, I forgot that's
never
even a thing.
Thought...
I don't honestly, right now, I have no idea how to squirt that stuff on my... I have no idea. I don't even know if it's in there.
I'm going to squirt your car right after we're done with this.
I hope that it's... I hope that it's... I don't even know, man. Like, what do? You pull the little stick towards you?
Mine has a button.
Yeah. Okay.
But some you pull one of the... It's usually the turn signal.
Does this prevent your window wipers from rotting?
It does, because it moisturizes.
Is it called dry rot? Is that what this is?
It moisturizes.
It needs to be moisturized. Because, they just rip apart, man.
Windshield wipers are something I never even think about.
I know.
Like 7 months out of the
year.
I don't.
And then you go back and buy them. Yeah. I don't know how to install my own, but now I don't want to. And it's really bad. Like, they're terrible today, but I'm like, I don't want to change them now because the one day of rain has happened. We're not going to see another, it's going to rain again February.
No, and exactly.
Yeah, and okay.
So here's what you do. Buy them now and just put them in your car.
Oh, okay, backseat them, and then
and then
are they easy to install?
Next time it rains,
yes.
Okay, you just click them right on, huh?
Well, yeah, you have to figure out how your particular car's, how your particular attachment.
Okay,
I'm looking at the 10-day forecast here, and it's 10 days of sun after today.
Yeah. We had our 1 day of real rain.
It was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot of rain.
I mean, it's still raining.
I don't know.
Get it now.
Yeah,
we'll get it later this week. Because I feel I don't
think the prices will go down.
I do.
There's an index.
You think AutoZone has adjustable pricing?
I think they do.
They're in surge pricing.
I can't prove it. I just kind of know it's true.
It's always funny because on the one rainy day a year, go into any Walmart, right there in the front, umbrellas.
Yeah.
And they're like $10 a pop. They know what they're doing. Yeah. They pull these things out of a corner in the back of their store, just blow the dust off of them, wheel that thing to the front, and they're like, this is our day.
I am 90% sure that I own an umbrella.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
No clue.
I believe it's in the house.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you like what room it's in even.
Yeah. I own umbrellas. They are all umbrellas for my daughter that are like rainbow skittle, like cute, like fairy tale umbrellas. And that's all I've got. And so we use those because that's all I've got.
We got 2 in our house. They're the same umbrellas. They're Prince umbrellas.
Prince?
Yes.
Like
the
Purple
artist
Rain.
formerly known
Purple
as.
Rain Prince umbrellas.
They make Prince umbrellas?
No, because we went to
Purple Rain.
It was a Minnesota Twins game, my sister calls me up. She's like, you gotta fly home for this game. It's Prince night at Target Field.
That's cool.
So Laura and I got on a flight. We flew there just for the game.
Wow.
We got, our Prince umbrellas. 7th inning, they turn off all the lights, except the lights are all purple.
Oh, cool.
And everybody opens up their umbrellas.
Oh.
And it was really cool. So
Alright,
the outside is purple, and then on the inside, it's the album cover of Purple Rain.
Oh, that's
Of
great.
him on his bike.
That's great.
Yeah, it was.
That is pretty cool.
Love that umbrella.
I will trade my umbrella for your Prince umbrella.
Yeah, those are solid.
No.
You know where those are, I'm sure.
Yes.
Are they too good to use?
I've never used them.
Yeah, that's a
He's
problem.
never dampened them.
Yeah, that's
No,
right.
no,
No. Can't
never.
It has to
sully
be
them.
actual Purple Rain to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those, you don't waste those with
No,
the
no.
one rainy day in the Mojave, or you do, or you're really excited to finally show people this.
But then after you're done,
running, you're like, oh, I got to check the mail again.
You take them out to the bathtub and you're just washing them, washing and drying your umbrellas.
Yeah, but this is why I don't wash my car though, because it's going to rain eventually. 2 days a year, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't want to waste the money. There's no point
Yeah,
to
that
all
makes sense. Yeah.
It
Well,
bothers me having a dirty car.
Yeah.
Well,
I need to vacuum my car.
Yeah. I have a silver car, and that helps.
that does
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
You got to get a white car in Las Vegas, man. Then you're set.
I hate silver cars and white cars.
Really?
I don't like them, but I own one. It's
Yeah.
weird. I know.
I almost always had a white car.
I almost
This
always.
is a pretty dark.
I always had black or a dark blue.
You can't do that here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you have a dark truck, but you keep
mine's
it
black.
clean, so that's fine. But yeah, everything's covered
I
in
mean,
dust.
And by wash it, I mean I just take it to one of the drive-through
Yeah,
car washes.
just give it a quick rinse.
Yeah,
Yeah, but as soon as you do that, 9.5 months later, it's going to rain, man.
it's true.
And
Like
then what?
clockwork.
Like
I mean,
clockwork.
If it
You
if
know?
it doesn't rain this year, it's gonna rain next year.
Yep.
Yep. Or you'll wash it in 2017, and a few years go by, and a few more,
And
and
it just
you
bites
mouth off on Twitter, and then it
bites
bites
you in
you
the
right
ass.
in the
Yep,
ass.
and then you're not getting a job.
You never know what's going to happen. We've got some great questions today. The first one is titled Passively Suicidal from Anonymous. On a few episodes on dealing with suicide, you've mentioned various levels of increasing concern. If I recall correctly, with a baseball metaphor. If I'm remembering correctly, first base is kind of thinking about death. Second base is thinking about methods and timing. Third base is having concrete schedules to this and a plan. If I'm misremembering this, please replace it with something more accurate so I'll sound smarter than I am. You got it right. There are a couple of things that don't fit neatly into those categories, so I'm wondering where they do fit at levels of concern. For example, thinking about if I fell ill, how much I'd be willing to subject myself to painful medical treatments with only a chance of extending my life. Someone I know recently died of cancer after years of treatment that took a lot of time, sapped a lot of strength, and didn't seem to add too much to their life. In that time, I've wondered, in the same situation, would I take that path? Or would I talk to the doctor about just making my remaining years peaceful and be resigned to the lifetime I get? If that isn't something that doesn't sound too alarming, what other behaviors might affect a lifespan? I say I'm taking up more bicycling and less short car trips to get more physical activity, to reduce pollution, to save on gas, but other people are worried about the likelihood of accidents and I'm not. Am I just doing something intentionally risky? Or something halfway between the two? I'm about a decade overdue for my next colonoscopy. I've had them before, so it isn't a fear of it. It's just procrastination, a frequent flaw that I'll admit to. Or is this a lack of care about my health? Basically, do scenarios like this have a place in your suicide watch sign list, or are they just something else entirely? If they are signs, where do they fit in your baseball diamond? Thank you. Love the show, Anonymous.
All right. I don't think they fit on the baseball diamond because I think you're playing a different sport.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
I was hoping you were going to go into like a shift or something like that.
Yeah,
I was hoping
yeah.
you just
infield
all
shift.
baseball analogies.
you're in the parking lot outside of Wrigley.
You just bought a Dodger dog.
Yeah. We're just going to keep working this. You're
Yeah.
on the bus on the way.
All baseball.
Yeah.
We can find a way to weave this in. But no, I think go on. I like your point there.
Yeah, I don't. If we're talking, that specific example. So you've got a terminal illness, and you're kind of planning out the rest of your life.
Right.
how hard do I really want to fight this versus how much do I just want to make my remaining years comfortable?
Right.
I don't think any clinician would look at that as being suicidal thoughts.
No.
You're dealing with a terminal illness.
Right.
You're coming to terms with that. You're trying to plan out the rest of your life.
Right.
So I don't even think that really is kind of on the same level.
I mean, that's common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all of my grandparents, when they were dying, I mean, they all had all of these conversations.
Right.
Not even when they were dying, when they were still in relatively good health, they were having these conversations at that point, planning for potential bad health down the line.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think this is a perfectly normal thing to do.
I think, yeah, absolutely. So I agree with both of you. I think there is a spectrum, and on this spectrum is not suicidality.
Right.
Suicidality is the baseball diamond. And like Nick said, I like what you said. That's a different sport than what you're playing entirely. You're on a football field.
Yeah.
Okay, whole different thing. And on this whole different thing, there is a range of behavior that we can see that, again, is not suicidality, but might be self-care on one side to stunning lack of self-care on the other side, right? This is a different game than suicidality. So let's say a person says, hey, look, I don't have a lot of self-care. I don't have a lot of regard for my health. I am apathetic about these things. I have an indifference to these things, and it doesn't affect me. I don't worry about myself. I kind of have a devil may care. It is what it is mentality. What is that, Jim? Am I passively suicidal? No. You're not. You're apathetic. You're apathetic. You don't care. You are indifferent. Perhaps there's a part of you that has a mentality of like, I don't want to know about bad things, and I'm just going to kind of keep on cruising because, for the most part, I don't have any warning signs on the dashboard here, so I'm just going to keep going. And like, look, that's not suicidality, right? Or this other piece, euthanasia. Saying, well, I think like if I were facing a really difficult health crisis, maybe I would just allow death to take place. Is that passively suicidal? No, that's not what the clinical word suicidal is referring to. Death is an inevitable part of the human experience. It is part of our known reality. Knowing of it and being in a path that happens to intersect with death is not suicide. Not all the time. Suicidality is a different thing. Being apathetic about your health is not suicidal, right? Facing a health crisis and you with your physicians identifying euthanasia or acceptance of a terminal illness as a potential option on the palette of things, again, is not suicidality. It's a form of acceptance and healthcare navigation. Now, slightly downfield from those ideas is maybe what we might call self-destructive behaviors, right? This is where a person is drinking and drugging and they're just doing a lot of risky things and getting hurt all the time and just not taking care of themselves. You might think, is that person passively suicidal? No, that person is self-destructive and self-sabotaging. And as a therapist, I am concerned. And those behaviors can often become precursors to suicidality, right? They're driving to the baseball diamond, but they're still not on it. So those are all things that I think they speak to death and they speak to self-care, but they are distinct. And we as therapists see them very distinctly from suicidality.
Right.
Another thing that gets brought up a lot, and I hear this a lot, is people will say, I'm having intrusive thoughts about what if I die? Or what if I want to kill myself? What if I steer this car right into a semi-truck coming down the other lane? Jim, what is this? Do I want to die? Am I going to hurt myself? Am I suicidal and not realize it? No. Those are intrusive thoughts. That's a fundamentally different thing. Again, you're not even on the baseball diamond. You have a different problem called anxiety. Like, that's not there. You're not dealing with that at all. Those are just intrusive thoughts, even if they have to do with death. And I was just talking to one of my patients about this just the other day. If you go into the DSM-5-TR and you go through the criteria that have to do with major depressive disorder, they talk about suicidality, but in that they have a specific caveat where they say, thoughts of death are part of this diagnosis, like, increasingly serious thoughts of death and suicide. And they put in parentheses, we're not talking about fear of that. And just to clarify, definitely not intrusive thoughts. Right. That is not on the baseball diamond. So all of these are examples, Anonymous, of things that, yes, have to do with death and self-care and self-dying, but none of them are on the baseball diamond. We don't see them as suicidality.
Yeah. And there's even another example too, when we start talking about, as the writer was talking about, like, okay, so I'm doing more bicycling, less car trips for multiple reasons.
Right.
Other people are not doing this because they're worried about the likelihood of accidents.
I
do it anyway.
Right.
I don't think that's you being intentionally risky necessarily. I think it's that you're just weighing risk differently than other people.
Right.
Like me driving here tonight, no
With
big
bad
deal.
window wipers.
No big deal.
Right.
Laura would have stayed home.
Okay.
Right.
Because she doesn't like the risk of the rain.
It's rainy.
Yeah.
And rain in Las Vegas is the equivalent of ice in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Because the roads collect so much rubber and oil and they heat up in the sun. Any drop of moisture, all of a sudden it's slippery.
You slip on your shoes.
Yeah. And so, like, it doesn't mean that I'm being careless or reckless. It's just I assess the risk differently.
Right. Any more than a smoker is passively suicidal. And you might be talking to somebody who's like, no, I smoke, a couple packs a day. And it's like, oh, do you want to die? No. Are you concerned you're going to die from these? I'm aware that I could.
Oh,
you seem indifferent to it.
Yeah. I mean, and
I'm fine.
And then that line, we can continue to push that boundary forever.
Right.
Like, you eat
you eat
6
red
strips
meat
of bacon every
right,
morning.
Yeah. You're not working out. You're not. Or like this. The writer says, "Well, I'm overdue for like a colonoscopy, and I haven't been on top of my health." And again, being indifferent, passive about risk is not being on the baseball diamond.
Right.
It's just not. And but I think this is, and I hope that us dismissing that is not us insulting you. This is a great question.
Yeah,
and it does come
absolutely.
up a lot. And when I hear this question, I usually hear it from people that have a little bit of an anxiousness about it.
Yeah.
And they're like, I just want to make sure I'm okay. You don't hear my thoughts about death and think I'm in danger, do you? And no, and I'm usually there to reassure them and say, no, let's clarify, let's get crystal clear. What is suicidality? What is major depressive disorder? How do these things all connect? And then what are these things, right? These things are just, they have to do with life and death, but they're not the same.
And I see the fear in that, because when you start having thoughts about death, it is scary.
Yeah.
And so you're just like, I'm not even sure where to file this in my brain.
Right. Especially if they're intrusive
yeah.
thoughts, and you're like, well, they're my thoughts, but then why am I thinking them? And intrusive thoughts are already baffling on their own.
Right.
And the writer didn't talk about that. I talked about that because it does come up a lot, and it's something that I hear all the time. So
yeah, great question.
It's a great question. Yeah, I like this one. Really into the nuance of that. So, but yeah, and just a reminder, since we're on the topic of suicide, there is a new mental health phone number hotline that's out there. Isn't it 998 or 988? Somebody double check that. I feel like it's 988. That feels right. Yeah, I feel like it definitely had a lot more ocho going on. I feel like the ocho was big. So I feel like it's 988. That feels right. And that's the mental health hotline.
988.
There it is. And 211 is also another national hotline to get attached to mental health services. And guys, if you're on that first base and you're thinking, man, sometimes I think giving up. I feel like despair. I feel like hopelessness. Just we want to take that seriously. We want to start talking about it. We want to maybe get some help. We want to start reading about it. But yeah, there is a spectrum, right? And therapists, we don't jump into action just because you're on first base or even second base. When people are getting to third base, that's when we professionally start to tighten our grip and start intervening with some more direct attention to the patient. But I know a lot of people are sometimes nervous to talk to therapists at all if they have anything to do with the baseball diamond because they're scared of what we're going to do. And I just want to be that voice that reassures you it's safe to come talk to us, guys. We do this all the time. It's a very normal topic for us. We talk about it every single day. And so if you're out there and you're having those kinds of thoughts, which again, to clarify, I don't mean thoughts of death, like a fear of death, or what the writer's talking about, like this sort of passive devil may care, kind of indifference to life. I mean, like, first base, like despair thoughts, giving up on life thoughts, death would be a relief thoughts, into second base. Here's how I would do it. Here's when I would do it. So if you're starting to think like that, please get help. Call the hotline if you feel like you need to. Use the text chat line. Get to the suicidehotline.org, I think is the other one. And don't hesitate on this stuff. Talk about it.
Yep.
Always the right thing to do.
Therapists
Great
talk
question.
about it all the time. They won't shut up about it.
We will not shut up. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about when your parents get divorced. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Smitty Scoop, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Mason Miller, Tess Miller, Dirty B, Byler, T, Paris, and Team Monaco. Would you like to sponsor a show? Become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. We're going to keep on with our trivia from last week.
All
You
right.
at home.
CNN projects that just so
Oh,
we
yeah,
can
yeah,
keep
yeah,
on
yeah. No,
We gotta
updating
get
the
this
live
stuff out
election
there.
coverage
Yeah.
from
Beep,
last
beep,
week.
beep, beep,
This
beep,
is
beep.
why people are
Hot
here.
off the wires.
Dr. Oz will not be the new senator from Pennsylvania.
Oh man, I really thought he had a shot.
Yep. There
Well,
you go.
shoot.
Yeah.
Good job, Pennsylvania.
East Coast results coming in.
Agreed.
Oh, that's good news, man.
All right.
Dude.
Dr. Oz.
What a weirdo.
What a jerk.
Yeah.
How's Dr. Phil doing? Is he still in the race?
I feel like he got out early on this
right.
one. Yeah.
Music stories.
Oh.
So not really lyrics, just songs about music, right?
Yeah.
Or songs about stories. That way.
Okay.
All right. In this 1976 hit from Gordon Lightfoot,
This is exactly what I thought you were going to ask about.
you will go second. This hit from Gordon Lightfoot is a song about the sinking of a cargo ship and the death of its crew on Lake Superior in November 1975.
Wow.
Is it? You got multiple choice.
Oh, that's
thank God.
great.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Whew.
Is it The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzsimmons, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgibbons, or The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzpatrick?
Oh God. I only vaguely know who Gordon Lightfoot is.
As soon as you started talking about how music was telling stories, I was like, this is the song.
Yeah, it's good. Of course.
Oh my
I really
gosh.
almost yelled it out. I almost gemmed it.
Wow. I'll throw a dart. I'll hit D. The Fitzgerald.
Fitzpatrick?
That one. Yeah, I'll do that just because that sounds like a real name.
Okay.
You're gonna also have, after this answer, you're gonna have to explain to me what this is because I am
Oh,
at a
yeah,
loss.
yeah.
I know that name.
It's an epic, is what it is.
Okay.
This song is an epic. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald is an epically long, and it's just like an old man sitting at a campfire telling a bunch of children a story.
Yeah.
To a tune.
And it's just set to music.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is it comedy?
No,
No, it's a serious
It's
song.
about a ship sinking and people dying.
Oh, okay.
It is decidedly not comedy.
Wow. Is
Yep.
it rhyme? Is it just?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it's-
okay, it's not prose. He's
Yeah.
not just reading
no.
a script and there's a
Wreck
beat.
of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Dun, dun, dun,
Wow.
dun, 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 dun,
That's it.
dun, 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 dun,
Man.
dun,
I mean, I'd sing the whole thing for you if we had like a 7-hour podcast.
Jeez. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard a comedian, Stephen Lynch, who wrote parody
Yes.
songs, and
He
he
mentioned
referenced
Gordon-
him.
Gordon
And I
Lightfoot, yeah.
assumed that meant that he was saying like I've taken up his
No,
this
he
is an
was-
homage to another comedian.
He,
6
he
minutes and
was,
40 seconds
Wow.
is the song.
Wow.
It's not a short ditty.
Wow.
He tells the whole story.
Yeah.
Footnotes
Like he-
included.
He starts with the ship being produced.
Yeah, the captain was born on this day.
His
Yeah,
parents had a nice bottle of wine.
Yeah,
We infused some carbon into the steel and we made carbonized steel.
I'm gonna have to listen to this.
by the way, Lake Superior was named after an old Indian name.
Let's talk about how the continents were formed.
We didn't have great food, but it really wasn't that bad. I don't know why everyone was complaining.
Wow.
Tuesday night was pizza night.
I'm gonna have to listen to this.
Yeah,
I've,
that's a good-
yeah. Now I
a good
just
song.
I'm out of just curiosity. I think at this point. All right, so that's 1 point to.
I'm going to sing that the next time I
Jacob.
go karaoke.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna sing the Wreck
god.
of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Like, everybody buckle in.
Yeah.
I'm doing this.
Follow that one up with American Pie.
Yeah.
and then you're done for the
We're
night.
going all day.
I've signed up for the next 3 songs and the next hour and a half of
yeah.
your life.
Yeah. I've locked the doors
Edmund
also.
Fitzgerald, American Pie, closing out with Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
There will be no leaving.
Here we go, people. There is no bathroom breaks.
I have a pitcher of water and a straw.
If there's time, I'll read from the Old Testament.
And then the phone book. All right, great questions here. Parents divorce from Anonymous. Dear Pod Therapy, my parents' divorce in 2018 tore my world apart and pushed me to start therapy. Long story short, my dad has refused to offer my mom any financial support, At 60 plus years old, she has no savings and no work experience. She resorted to legal action, both in Egypt and eventually the US, where my dad has assets, to get any sort of financial support. Almost 5 years later, the cases have dragged out and she has yet to receive anything. And throughout this time, my dad has been manipulating me and my siblings in an ugly way to turn against my mom by, for example, asking us to tell her that the cases she's filed are immoral and that she needs to drop them, or violently yelling at me when I gave my mom some money when she was in a tough spot. I've refused to take sides, much to my dad's intimidating frustration, and have continued to stay in touch with both my mom and dad, out of financial necessity, as horrible as that sounds. However, my conversations with my mom are extremely draining, almost exclusively about her financial precarity, inability to find a job, loneliness, and uncertainty about the future. I myself am in a financially precarious stage of my life, amid a career change and recent separation from my husband, all of which have sent me into a major depressive episode/relapse. I've had several previous episodes in the past. I'm managing my chronic depression with a psychiatrist and therapist, but how to deal with my mom is a perpetually unresolved issue. I feel guilty for not being able to support her financially and offer her accommodations. Though, to be honest, I also didn't have the best relationship with my mom growing up. And the thought of living with her, if I ever became financially capable of providing for that in the future, makes me anxious and depressed. My siblings have refused to help out due to financial inability, cutting off my parents or having taken my dad's side, which has made me resentful of them and alone and helpless. I don't feel like it's fair that I'm burdened by her predicament completely on my own. I thought that I could at least be there for her emotionally by calling her often as she requested, but I've had to limit the calls to once a week while trying to recover from my recent depressive episode. I know I cannot pour from an empty cup. Even then, I still feel the weight of her worsening financial predicament and potentially looming housing instability gnaw at me. What can I possibly do? Anonymous daughter.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
Oof, boy.
You're already doing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Did it say
mean,
your age?
no,
Okay.
she sounds young.
Has been married and divorced, and we know mom is in 60s plus.
Yeah.
So yeah, not entirely sure, but
So maybe
my guess is probably 30s, 40s.
I was going to say
I was
20s,
going
30s.
to guess younger, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Who knows? Okay.
Adult.
Grown up.
Grown up, yeah. This is, I don't know. This is a really tough situation, obviously, because you're kind of, and this is a good example sometimes of even divorce with adult children can be really messy and become very emotionally draining for the kids going through that. Because if mom and dad aren't getting along and that's very hostile, then it really puts the kids in a very precarious, uncomfortable situation.
Yes.
And then, so we've got that, even without the financial stuff.
Right.
Just we got that.
Square one.
Right.
Bad situation.
Then we throw in the financial piece.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you have some financial challenges yourself, and you recognize mom, so you want to be there for her.
Yeah.
So now you're trying to, as you explained, pour from an empty bucket. So that's 2. And then number 3, then you just have that emotional baggage that you're dealing with. And now you've got other baggage there.
You're going
that's
through a
not
divorce
yours.
too. Yeah, you're recovering.
And so now you have to help pick up other people's stuff too. Yeah, this is, you got a lot going on. And so, I mean, what possibly can you do? I mean, it's,
And you just
seems
want
like you're
dad to
doing
behave
everything
like
you
a
can.
fucking person.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
It is. I mean, you don't have control over this. There's several pieces at play here, which I guess I respect the complexity of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, look, you do have a responsibility, as you are doing, to slow down communication with mom for your own self-preservation. And Ryder says that, says, look, I want to do more. I want to be there for her it's starting to weigh me down, right? And we all remember the training, right? You get in the boat and it's like, hey, be careful not to try to save a drowning person right away. They'll capsize your boat, you know? And so there is kind of a procedure to this. And it is a tough situation to be in. And I think Ryder has to be really careful here, because if we just throw our mental health into the sea and say, it's okay, I'm going to get you out of this, I'm here for you, this person who is going through their own personal hell, they're going to wrap around you and pull you under with them. And not because they're bad, not because they want to, but because they are in panic, right? And there's an animalistic nature that emerges, and we do not have the resource mentally, financially, or emotionally to rescue them. And sometimes that's hard to recognize because we feel like we're failing them, or we feel like a bad daughter, or we feel like we're not doing enough. And the truth is, like you said, Ryder, you just can't pour out of an empty cup. It's arithmetic, it's physics, it's a law of nature. And we have to allow ourselves to experience that without personalizing that, which goes back to our discussions in the past about cognitive distortions. You know, that is a cognitive distortion, personalizing or shoulding. Telling ourselves we're not doing enough, we should be doing other things, a good daughter would do these things, when things are actually outside of our control. Or feeling like we need to apologize for the rain, when we didn't cause that. You're not responsible for Dad's behavior. You're a victim of it too. You're part of the collateral damage, and you're witnessing a terrible thing happening to somebody that you love, and to be honest, you are powerless to stop it. And that's its own kind of torture, I think, to watch somebody you love struggle with injustice, to watch them suffer, and there's nothing you can do while you're still suffering yourself. But it goes back to that, metaphor of the airplane, where you got to put your own oxygen mask on before you have any hope of helping others. It feels selfish. It feels counterintuitive. It feels wrong. It feels disloyal. It's not, though. We have to train you to do it because it's counterintuitive, but that is the best action you can take as self-care.
because you can't help anybody else if you need help.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
Like I do all of these first aid CPR classes and all this kind of stuff for my work, and the thing that they hammer at us with is, before you do anything, get your gloves, make sure you've got your PPE on, all of these things, do all of these things, because otherwise you're just creating a second victim.
Yeah, make sure the scene is safe.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Like if you're rescuing someone from a fire, get them out of the fire first before you start performing CPR on them, even though you know that not performing CPR on them immediately may mean that they die.
Right.
But keeping them in the fire means that you both die.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of people, I think, that relate to this writer. I can't tell you how many cases I've had where a person tells me that, this is an adult, and they are the adult child of divorce, and a parent is over leaning on them, and they become their parent's therapist. And they don't know what to do because they are the closest person to the scene of the crime. And like, I've known you my whole life, and you took care of me when I was a baby, and I'm a child. We're family. I want to be there for you, and I get this. I'm woven in, but at the same time, you are being drugged down by it. And it's hard because we do have to establish those boundaries. And we do have to tell our loved one, look, I am here for you, but there are things that I can't be for you, things I can't do for you. I can't be your therapist. I want to steer you toward helpers if they're out there. And I guess, Anonymous, I know it's that cliche pod therapy advice, that we're always trying to tell people, hey, don't forget to get into therapy, not just for yourself, but if you haven't already, strongly encouraging your mother to find resources. This is the kind of thing that I want to deal with. I don't want you dealing with it. I get paid to deal with it, okay? It is my profession. This is what I do. And so when I get patients like your mother, I am trained not only to help them get the poison out and to work through their grief, to work through their miseries, but also to try where I can to get a speckle of light in their life and find some kind of productive solutions. And then lastly, I'm also supposed to be trained in case management and trying to find resources and support to try to keep her afloat and try to get her whatever I can. That's my job, not yours.
Yeah.
And if there's any ability to get her into any kind of public support, public therapy, anything that's available wherever she is, and I'm sure you've looked, but, I wouldn't be doing my job on the show if I didn't bring it up.
Well, I'm trying to imagine myself in this position. What are the things that I would do?
Yeah.
How would I, assuming I'm at my best, like assuming I am able to make these decisions quickly. Number one, Again, I have to take care of my own stuff first.
Right.
And part of that means I'm going to have to establish boundaries. But for me to be able to establish boundaries, I feel like I need to, as you were just talking about, direct mom someplace to go. I don't want to feel, I don't want to approach my mom with the attitude of, I can't talk to you about this. And that's it.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to say, I can't talk to you about this because it's too much for me. However,
Right.
this person over here can.
Right.
And so if you can go that direction, I will support you. I'll hold your hand as we walk that way.
Yeah.
But I can't do it.
Yes.
And so you're pointing them. I think that's a good boundary, because then that's, again, like I just imagine, again, emotional baggage.
Yes.
Imagine all of this luggage that you have to haul around. You're already hauling your own stuff, and it's hard to, you can't carry anybody else's.
Right.
And so you're going to have to direct mom over someplace where she can carry her stuff with help, and she can learn how to carry her own. The other thing, and this would probably be one of the last things I would do, I would really do my best to figure out a solution to my financial problems, because it becomes really difficult to establish a healthy boundary with dad when you're also financially dependent on dad.
Dad seems to have weaponized finances.
Exactly.
In a
That's kind of what I was
really
thinking
malicious
too.
way.
Yeah.
Super manipulative.
If you're able to get to a point where you're not dependent on dad's money, your life becomes a lot easier,
right.
because you can start setting boundaries. And if he threatens to pull money or financial support, maybe rough, but to be able to know that you're going to be okay,
right.
that's really empowering.
Yeah.
That's really, really empowering. But I don't know what that looks like for you, right?
Sure. We assume there's barriers and
Yeah.
and there's a lot of, obstacles in the path here.
Yeah. But anything you can do to establish that. And again, like I mentioned that as being the third thing, because it's probably not, it's not going to be your number one priority, but eventually that would be something to work towards.
So many people are relating to this letter. I know it.
Oh, yeah.
There's people that are relating to the financial cudgel that dad is using to weaponize every member of the family and just run his little fiefdom here where everybody has to salute him and do what he says. Because look, in the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. And like dad's got the throne. So like everybody get behind him and do what he wants. And if mom's the outcast, then okay, don't do any, shame her, shun her, because we have to eat our bread, right?
Yep.
And it's such a shitty situation. It's terrible, man. A lot of manipulation here. But, writer, I'm glad that you are starting to do things like self-care. I'm glad that you're creating boundaries with mom. Again, that is not disloyal. I'm glad that you have a psychiatrist. I'm glad that you're going to therapy. I'm glad that you're getting all of these things together for your own benefit and to fill your cup so that you can try with everything you've got to try to be helpful. But I also want to relieve some of your burden for that, right? And if you're not talking to your therapist about codependency and about, personalization and kind of how we tend to internalize the struggle of others, I want you to make sure you're unpacking that there, because they're going to help you disabuse yourself of the notion that you have the ability to fix any of this. And, there is a real commodity in listening to somebody, being present with them, being a safe space for their emotional, download. There is value to that. And I think as family, we can do a portion of that. But very quickly we realize there's a reason there's professionals for this. Like there is a reason. And it's not because you lack empathy. It's not because you don't love them enough. Like, obviously you love them more than I ever can, right? But at the end of the day, I can do more because I'm not attached to it. I can be more helpful because dad can't manipulate me. I'm outside of the circle and I'm not attached to any of this pain. And so I'm able to see clearly and drive the car. So again, I'm sure that you're already an advocate of mental health. If there's any way to steer mom toward helpers, would I love that. I think that's going to be a clear one.
I mean, hell, dad too.
Gosh, if you can get dad to sit down and start talking about this stuff, because there seems to be a lot of vitriol coming out of dad, just the way that this family's being managed. This is a tough one, Anonymous. I'm sorry to hear it. And, I know when you wrote this, you didn't expect us to say, hell, have you thought of this? There it is. This one weird trick will solve everything. Obviously, it's not that simple. I think in this kind of letter, we can offer you empathy. we can resonate. There are so many people resonating with you right now. Surround yourself with support. If you're not already part of our community, I hope you'll join it because there's a lot of people that will be rooting for you on this. I'm sure when this episode airs in our Discord, there's always a chat about the episode that's airing, and people, relate and give feedback and give, their 2 cents. And I'm sure in this episode's discussion, you're going to hear a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, I relate to this aspect of this letter. And sometimes that's all we have is just the community and the commiseration of truth. And that gives us a little bit, to put some more gas in the tank. But we're rooting for you, writer. And I'm glad you're listening. I'm glad you're getting self-care. And I'm glad you're hanging in there. Keep doing that.
Yeah, and you're not doing anything wrong. You're doing everything. You're probably doing more than you should.
Yeah.
If anything. So yeah.
Thanks for writing in. Great question. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss communication versus betrayal. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Spitty Scoop, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Mason Miller, Tess Miller, Dirty B, Tyler P, Harris, and Team Monaco. If you want to sponsor the show, become a therapy user at patreon.com/therapy. All right, our next music story. Any guesses on this song?
Gordon Lightfoot.
Just throwing them out there.
Was the question who wrote the song we talked about in the first question?
No.
I wouldn't put it past him.
All right. Released in 1979, Escape tells the story of a man wanting to leave his wife and meet up with a new lover, only to find out the new lover is his wife, who was attempting the same thing. Name the artist.
Rupert Holmes.
I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
this one at all.
Maybe I can give you a hint. If
It's Rupert Holmes.
you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, if you're not into
You know
yoga,
the song.
but you're into champagne,
Wait, it's Jimmy Buffett?
if you like making love at midnight in the dunes of the Cape, then I'm the love that you looked for. Write to me and escape. Ba-na-na-na-na-na-na.
I'm just confused now.
Still not there yet. Keep going.
I'll keep going until somebody stops me. Na, 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 na.
Yes, it is Rupert Holmes.
It was my own special lady. That is a great song, man. A lot of
It is a
people
good
don't
song.
know the Pina Colada song is actually called Escape.
Yeah.
That is a solid one.
Yeah.
I had that album. Actually, I had that single. I don't even know that it's an album, but I had that on CD when I was in middle school. That's a weird thing for a 7th grader to have.
Sure is.
It is fucking
What
weird.
part of that song could you relate to?
Man, I liked.
Was it-
Yeah, I did. Never had a Pina Colada.
The Pina Colada was...
Honestly, it went way over my head. So like back then, I was just like, if you like pina coladas,
It was just a catchy
that
tune.
was
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Which reminds me of there's so many songs that like people are chanting and like they love them.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when you sit down and really look at the lyrics,
Yeah.
sometimes it really catches you off guard.
A lot of them you don't even have to study the lyrics. If you just look at them on the page, you go like, "Oh, motherfucker."
Yeah, and you're like, "Whoa, I did not know that song was about that."
I mean,
or,
the
like-
classic example. We're out of primary or out of midterm election season in the U.S. now, but the classic example is always "Born in the USA."
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh.
that song is just horrible and sad.
And
Yeah.
you think it's like the celebration.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
this triumphant, jingoistic, like, we did this, we're
Yeah.
awesome. And it's not
Yeah,
it.
It is not.
Yeah.
God.
It's not.
The first hit I had was hitting the ground.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, it's that.
It's actually pretty dark. So my son is a guitarist. He's into electric guitar. He's like learning all this stuff now. And so he's really interested in like historically popular songs of every genre. And so every once in a while I'll be like, oh, you should check out this song. It's pretty cool. And then he'll listen to it and he'll appreciate it and be like, yeah, this is, wow. So when was this a hit? And like, okay, when you were a kid, that's cool. And he really likes it. And so recently we were talking about this exact topic of like songs that are like, you didn't know that they're saying a different thing. And I introduced him to Blues Traveler Hook.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's reading the lyrics and he's looking at me, he's like, you're kidding me. Like, these guys got away with this. It's like, oh, it was a jam.
Yeah.
Like we were all shouting it. Like, the hook brings you back.
Yeah.
I try to explain to people all the time when they have a new act or they have a show that they're putting together and they have a piece of music that they want to plug into this act. This is my sound designer hat.
Yeah.
and when they have a piece of music they want to plug into this act, and they say, well, listen to the lyrics of this song. It describes what's happening in this act perfectly, or it describes what's going on in this play perfectly. And I go, no one is ever going to listen to these lyrics.
No, yeah.
You are way too idealistic about this.
People don't listen to lyrics, especially at a show. There's something else going on that's keeping your attention anyway.
Yeah, there are no captions on this.
Yeah, they're not pondering what the lyrics are saying
Right.
while an acrobat is spinning 30 feet in the air upside down.
So the mood of the song is
Yes.
what needs to go with the act.
Whatever the feel of the song is, that's what you want to aim for, not what the song is actually saying.
Wow.
And if you can get a song with 9 times out of 10, especially in a show, like in a play or a musical, if you can get a song with no lyrics, bonus.
Okay, it's better just to not even bother with
Don't
that.
even have those lyrics there, because if anything, they're just going to be distracting.
Yeah. Gosh, that's so funny, man. What an interesting quirk of humanity. That like we put so much emphasis on this kind of stuff, like what the song's trying to say and the meaning of things, and yet so often these things just fly right over
Well, it's
our head.
important. It's important for other reasons. It's important to be able to dig into a piece of art, any kind of piece of art, visual art, a painting, a sculpture, anything like that. You want to be able to dig into that piece of art and understand what the artist was trying to say.
Right.
Because you can even juxtapose that with what you got out of it.
Right.
And look at that juxtaposition, and you'll get something brand new from that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's studying the art. But just a single pass.
Right.
I'm just looking at the painting. I'm just jamming to the song.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not digging in. Oh, this is the first time I've heard Hook.
Right.
I'm not digging into those lyrics. And Blues Traveler and John Popper understood that better than most,
I think
earlier than quite a few people.
I'm with you 100%. And I think you're nailing it, because for me, I honestly believe this. Hook, in my opinion, is one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard.
Hook
in
is
my
a
life.
great song.
It is brilliant on so many levels. And to write those lyrics criticizing the entire musical industry and how these things function, and
While doing it.
While doing it.
And doing it
passively insulting the listener while
I wouldn't say passively.
he's calling you out, and you are tapping your toes and shouting his lyrics because he knows what he's doing.
He's saying, come on over here, sheep, and you're going, bah, this is great.
Sounds great.
Bah.
He's playing his little pipe, and you're just following him along. And it is remarkable that they were able to just summon a jam and then do that in that jam. And it's just like, dude, what? Like, I really think it's profound. It's just so profound. But then it's also a powerful song just to listen to. Like, the emotions that it summons is actually really profound. And you're being manipulated. And like, it's all just, God, on so many levels, I respect that song. It's so cool. I don't know. How did we get here? What were we talking about? Oh, pina coladas. If you like pina coladas, getting caught in the rain. Communication versus betrayal, from Blake. Hi, guys. New listener here and loving the show and information and help you're providing. Sorry this is a lengthy one, but the more context I give, the better advice there will be, hopefully. If you can't put it on the show, I understand, but would love to hear it anyway. Here's the story. I'm coming off of a non-committed talking relationship that only lasted about 7 months, but had history with this person, we'll call her Lady A, off and on, starting back in middle school times. I'm 29 now, and for the greater portion of my life, this person held an unhealthy amount of praise from me in my mind as being the one that was meant to be. In a time when I was too young to understand true love, I decided I'd had enough of being the one hurt and wondering why we couldn't stick with it, so I decided it was her turn to be the one left wondering. This is a decision I had come to regret and remember vividly for years later. Lady A had returned to me after I had started another relationship with Lady B, asking for us to give it another chance. I ended up sticking with Lady B's relationship and foolishly marrying way too young. Me and Lady A both kept in touch throughout the decade or so that had passed as strictly friends. Her path brought her through more trauma than mine by far. She had a shorter-term marriage in which her spouse committed suicide. That followed up with an abusive relationship with a narcissist that she stuck with for the unplanned for their unplanned child. In the beginning, for almost 4 years. My marriage with Lady B ended with her cheating on me. The relationship was dying and needed to end, but it hurt worse that communication couldn't have been the method she opted for. About a year later, Lady A reached out and planned on trying to leave her toxic relationship and wanted someone to treat her and her son right, hinting at me. So she broke it off, and she did end up bringing what few things she could get out of there with her over to my house, and they lived with me intermittently and with her mother mainly. We were just looking to stay friends while she healed, but both agreed we were fated to rejoin. It was going as planned for a few weeks, but the relationship started forming quicker than we intended. Nevertheless, it went dreamlike perfect for about 5 to 6 months. She had even started openly telling her friends we were talking, even leaving her son with me frequently, and that bond began to bloom as well. We spent nights openly communicating our pasts and lessons learned through time apart, but after some time, something changed in her. She stopped coming over for visits and a little at a time started taking her belongings to her mother and sister's house, which were all supportive of what we were doing. I tried many times to ask about the distance that was forming and speak about how it was affecting me, but it never brought any light to the situation, and she would throw the "we're not in a relationship" reply at me when I brought it up, even though I never once asked about an official relationship through the whole duration, respecting the initial agreement. Eventually, Lady A's sister reached out to me to inform me that Lady A had been going out to spend time at another guy's house, and that she'd assured him that me and her weren't trying to see each other, while I was told he was just a family friend that I didn't need to worry about. She claimed in text to her sister that I had too many red flags, such as I was trying to control her by buying both of her and her son clothes and paying for her nails, and that she didn't want to be trapped like she claimed she was with her ex. She had been using my car to go see the new guy, and her family couldn't watch it happen to me anymore. Weeks prior, I had even asked her point blank if she was seeing anyone else, or using my car to do so, which of course she lied about. I cut myself off from her, but need closure so bad. I never got any attempts of contact from her after that, but a single reaction on a post on my social and a happy birthday message text that I regretfully replied thank you to. Weeks later, I did reach out for closure that I felt was owed about the situation. I told her I just wanted honesty about the situation so I didn't have to carry any of this hurt that I didn't deserve. But I only got a "I'm a bad person because I'm working on it." Then she blamed her decisions on how her ex treated her and did wish that I'd forgive her. The audacity of that bothers me. It seems like to me she's just using men to cover up her previous damage. It has brought me down a road to contemplating my self-worth and losing hope for the future. It feels like the person I knew all that time ago has passed away. I'm constantly ruminating, looking for answers, and having breakdowns. I just think if I could see what was going on in her head, no matter how bad it is, I could just accept it as why it was and move on. Was she lying the whole time? I'm having a hard time accepting and processing all this. I need advice, guys. Again, sorry for the long letter. Future Pterodactyl, Blake the Garden Snake.
Alrighty. So
I kept having to fight the urge to interrupt in the middle of the letter.
A lot of pieces to that.
Oh, a lot of pieces.
A lot of pieces to that.
So-
Whew, what a journey.
Go, Nick.
I'm trying to think of where I want to start. So first off, here I'll start this way. I'm going to start from the end and work backwards. At the very end, the last paragraph, you started talking a lot about her and kind of asking some of these questions, like what's wrong with her? Why was she doing this? What was going on with that? We could, if we wanted to, we could spend the next 20 minutes talking about what's wrong with her, and you will be no further ahead at the end of that 20 minutes than you are right now.
Right.
You're right. I'm going to rethink what I'm going to say.
Okay.
You know what? I kind of feel like we should let Jacob just have it. Let's let Jacob go, and then we'll reel him back
I was
in.
just going to talk about her, but no.
No.
You're right.
You know what? Pull over, Nick. Pull over. Let him pass. Let him go. Let him go.
No. Go.
Okay.
I'm just going to keep making
Now
jokes.
that we got that out of the way, I do want to point out something that I feel is really telling, and it's at the very, very beginning of your story, and I highlighted it. because you said, I'm coming off and this is what I highlighted, non-committed, parentheses, talking relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then the very next sentence after that, you talked about that she is the one that you were meant to be with.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing that I want to point out to you as a listeners. I want you to be aware of that, because this is not anything to do with her. These are two competing ideas within you. Like, so you're identifying that you're kind of putting her up on this pedestal while also acknowledging that this was a non-committed relationship. So which is it? Where would you say your behaviors were in line? Were your behaviors congruent with the non-committed part, or were your behaviors congruent with your feelings, which are that she's the one I'm supposed to be with? Because it sounds like she was not on the same page.
Right.
And definitely, I'm sure she's got some flaws in there too, and we can talk about that.
I mean, it sounds like she digs you.
Yeah.
Or did.
Yeah.
I mean, sounds like she still does. Sounds like she doesn't want to cut off.
She wants to be
contact
forgiven.
entirely.
Yeah, she wants something.
I'll talk about the forgiven part of it and the audacity of that for a moment.
Yeah.
Anyone who asks for forgiveness has a level of audacity to it.
Sure.
If you were there, I was watching a clip today. SJ and I were talking about rewatching Game of Thrones.
Oh.
And just to have something to turn on at night every so often.
Can you go through the disappointment again, man?
That's kind of the idea. It's like it was a good show for so long.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, maybe. But it came up because a clip popped up on YouTube this morning, and it was the character, the Hand of the King, the brother,
Tyron.
That's it.
Tyron. Yeah.
Yes. Saying we don't, basically we don't make treaties with our friends.
Right.
We don't need to ask our friends to make peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is it. I mean, this really is like, you have to have the audacity, I suppose is as good a word as any.
Yeah.
To ask someone after you have wronged them to forgive you for it.
Right.
If she's doing that, I mean, I don't know, man. Like if you want to hold on to it and keep dealing with it, you certainly can. That is, you're not wrong. She lied to you and she did these things. I mean, you know what she did better than I do. You're not wrong about that. But at some point, you just have to ask, like, how much do I want to devote to dealing with this? How much time do I want to spend ruminating on the fact that she done me wrong?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I kind of have thoughts on that too, because just the idea of closure, like in a relationship. I don't know. This is just kind of my philosophy. I could be completely wrong. Somebody else may have different ideas about this, but like for me, closure in a relationship, I try to accomplish that without the other person.
Yes.
Like I don't need to reach out to that person for closure.
It only matters to you.
Yeah.
Your closure only matters to you.
Yeah. And so whatever I need for closure, I try to do it internally and not try to get it from somebody else. Because if I need closure for my happiness, then that means, and I define closure as me getting an apology or me getting acknowledgement from them that they did something wrong, then now I'm saying that I can't be happy unless this person does something.
This person is actively controlling my emotions.
Exactly. That's
by
the
not
last thing I
giving me
want.
what I need.
Exactly. I want my emotions to be 100% within my control, not somebody else's. I don't want to ask somebody else permission to feel good.
Yeah.
And I don't want to ask somebody else permission to move on with my life. I want to have the power to be able to do that myself. And so sometimes that means writing a letter, not sending it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it means talking with a friend. Sometimes it means therapy. But whatever that is, I try to do that internally without involving the other person. Because I think sometimes what happens is we reach out because we say we need closure, when really what we're doing is I'm reaching out because I I desperately need to just talk to this person again.
Right.
Right.
I miss them.
Mm.
I want them back in my life.
Mhm.
And this is a good way for me kind of to bring them back in.
Yeah.
Because there's
I
nothing that she's going to
wish.
say to make you go like, oh, okay then.
Got
I feel
it.
better.
Moving on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I relate to Blake, and I think a lot of people do.
Oh, I certainly relate to Blake.
The
Blake.
brain, the brain does not like unsolved
Yeah.
mysteries.
Yeah.
And when you're cheerfully going on in one direction, it's like, I'm your white knight. I'm loving on you and your son. We're playing house. I'm buying you clothes. I'm taking care of you. Here's my car. We're meant to be. This feels like destiny. We've known each other since we were kids. We're just two little peas in a pod. And then all inexplicably, distance starts to form, and you're grasping for explanation. You're looking for that. And then further inexplicably, you just get completely T-boned in the intersection. Here you are just driving along. It's a green light. You're entering in the intersection, plowed into from the side. The family feels so bad about how played you are that they break loyalty to her to come to you and go, this sickens us. You're being played. She is taking your car to another man's house. She is lying to you about the person that she's seeing, and she's telling us that you do not matter, and she's probably telling you a different story or relying on you for different emotional needs. You clearly have been misled. And we feel the need to come out of the woodwork and alert you to this as bystanders. When you are that caught off guard, your brain just spirals because you didn't see it coming. And the brain doesn't like unsolved mysteries, and I think we grasp for an explanation.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what they want deep down, is just to get it, to understand it. To have the person sit us down and go, look.
But I think Nick already
here's
hit on
why
part
this
of the
happened.
explanation.
Well, I agree.
Not all of it,
I
but
agree
a
with
part
your
of it.
conclusion, and so like I'm with you that yes, the healthiest thing is to reach what Nick's talking about.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm referring to it seems like you never defined what this relationship was between the two of you in the first place.
I do think that is a significant portion of the pie graph. I think another dominant color on that pie graph is the backstory that we already know about this woman. That her relationship ended in the suicide of a spouse, that she was abused by a narcissist who cheated on her routinely, that she has been thrown into turmoil with a child and she's trying to pick up the pieces of a shattered life, that she has trauma. Hurting people hurt people. They behave in ways that don't exactly match up to the best version of logic and rational life, that they could be living. And they may be betraying you and taking advantage of you and not showing you deference. And it is confounding, but not to a therapist, because we're reading that backstory and going, it checks out,
Yeah.
and until they're healed or working through this, they're going to keep swinging wildly and throwing elbows and knees at anybody who gets close to them.
Yeah. I want to go back to something that you had said earlier about the brain not liking the kind of
Unresolved mystery.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with that. And I think that's kind of how we developed a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how we came up with religion.
Sure.
It's like, I have no other way of explaining what lightning is.
Right. Yeah.
It must be
There's
Zeus.
the
Right?
sun.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
I think that's kind of how we came to that conclusion. But I definitely agree. It's the same thing in like relationships, where when we're blindsided with something, we're just like, okay, I need answers. I got to do this. But I think the solution to that, and I don't know, maybe your idea is different than mine. It's like the brain needs answers. My solution to that isn't to find it answers. My solution to that is come to peace with the fact that we're not going to have answers.
Where you are with that, and I was going to say this as you were presenting that point, that's where, so if Blake's my patient, I want him to get where you are. But it's one of those like stages of change kind of situations where I don't have a shortcut to that. And so he's almost going to have to go through almost like an adjacent stages of grief kind of thing. And a lot of the therapy I'm doing with a guy like Blake is just hand-wringing.
Would you advise him to reach out to her?
Oh, no.
Right.
No. I want him talking to me.
Yeah.
And I know that we're going to have quite a few sessions that are him in a puzzled, longing voice, repeating himself over and over again, like a person crawling out of the wreckage of a car, looking around bewildered and saying, what the fuck just happened? And I know a big portion of our therapy is just going to be him looking at me and going, I don't understand how this happened, Jim, and recapping the play by play. And then I just, the other day I was eating some ice cream, and I remembered about this other story that happened with us, Jim, that I never told you about this time I took her to Baskin Robbins, and I remembered her favorite flavor. And like he has to go through this whole like process of the brain just balancing the stuff, moving it from one hand to the other, holding it, looking at it, turning it around in every angle. His brain's going to have to do that for a while. Now, where do I want him to get to? Your place. I want him to land on this place of realizing she doesn't have what you need. You won't get it. There will not be an ending to the story. You will not have the narrator's, perspective to get all the pieces put together. At best, I, as an outside therapist, can sweep over with a narrative of mental health and teach you about the effect trauma can have on people. At best, that will help explain her behavior. But you're going to go to bed with this mystery.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to do what you did, Nick, coming back to a sense of personal narrative and saying, you know what, I refuse to be a victim here. Here's how I'm going to self-care my way back into a solid state.
Yep, exactly. And just kind of that understanding that I don't have an answer right now. Maybe someday I will have an answer. Maybe I never will.
Right.
But I'm not going to create an answer. And I'm not going to go back to this person who's unhealthy and try to get an answer from them, because there's no answer that's going to make sense.
Right.
Right. I mean, you can go talk to her and she can tell you, X, Y, and Z, which is what happened ultimately. I've never seen this play out where it's like the relationship ended badly. I went to see closure and I got what I wanted.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen. Yeah. You end up getting more manipulation. Either the person is cruel and twist the knife, or they're not cruel.
Sometimes it does happen, but it's like 20 years later.
It takes a pretty enlightened perspective to give you that.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that only therapy or hindsight's going to provide.
Exactly. We're both in our 70s now, and we're talking about something that happened 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And because we've lived through that, we've dealt with it, we've matured, we've got a new perspective.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a new perspective. She's got the same perspective.
Right.
None of that has occurred.
I've done that relatively recently. I've reconnected with an old girlfriend from years and years and years ago. And we've done a little bit of that. Now, like, we were never married. We were never, a super serious relationship or anything. So we have less skin in the game. But I mean, we couldn't have had the conversations that we've had a year after we stopped seeing each other.
Yeah.
It's only now that we've kind of come back to it and gone like, oh, hey, that was weird.
Yeah.
That was weird, wasn't it?
And then
because now we're completely disconnected from it, and we're looking at our own lives, but not a part of our lives that affect our day to day today.
And I think that's a very important point, is that we're talking about different parts of the brain, right? Like there's that emotional center of the brain,
right?
And then there's the logical executive functioning part of the brain, right. And that's the part of the brain that you're using now.
Right.
Yes.
Whereas a year out of it,
right.
You're still thinking with
we can look at it like those are two
system.
people that we don't know.
Right.
And we just happen to know their story.
Yep.
Whereas it is us, but it's so long ago that we aren't affected by it.
Yep.
Which is another reason I don't want Blake doing a whole lot of reconnection, seeking these answers.
Furthermore, don't get into another relationship yet.
Right.
I mean, I would take some time
to
to
palate cleanser
yeah.
to kind of work through some of this
and learn from this. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm coming down on you harsh here, Blake. And I feel like I did a little earlier. I don't mean for that to be it. I want you to learn from this,
right?
And take this new knowledge that you have forward.
Yeah.
And accept that this may have been a painful experience. You didn't get what you wanted out of this experience, and understand that's okay. That now it's time to move on. And maybe this will come back up down the line. Maybe it won't. I mean, at some point, you got to kind of accept that you can't control that.
Yeah. And I want to make sure that I say two things to you, Blake. One, nobody in this room thinks that you did anything technically wrong.
No.
You showed up. Somebody showed up in your life.
Uh-huh.
You have feelings for them. You were honest about that. They told you about their feelings. The paths crossed in a very earnest way. You were both available, and you showed up, and you got to be the hero, right? And you tried to be magnanimous and cautious and meaningful and vulnerable and connecting and human and available. Blake, that's wonderful. Nothing about this was bad.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah.
Because hold that thought. I want to
Yeah.
hear the other thing you want to say. But this just reminded me because I want to clarify something I said earlier when I pointed out that position about non-committed relationship, but then she's the one I'm meant to be with.
Right.
And I think that this is important because this happens sometimes in these relationships where the other person says, no, this isn't a serious thing.
Uh-huh.
And I, as that other person in this relationship, will say, yeah, totally. But emotionally,
That's not my truth.
exactly.
Yeah.
Emotionally, my truth is we're meant to be together.
I'm holding space for you.
Exactly.
I'm not looking around.
There's not a
Yeah.
part of your
I-
letter that made me think,
Yeah.
oh, this guy is fine having a casual relationship
Exactly.
with this
Yeah.
person.
Like
This is meant to be.
intellectually, I will verbalize, yeah, this is a non-committed, non-serious thing that we've got.
Right.
But I know that that's bullshit because emotionally,
I
I feel something.
Well, and also
else.
when you're in those shoes where Blake was standing, what are your options?
Exactly.
Because your truth is, okay, fine, you're not all in on me, but I'm all in on you. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna stand here and wait.
Oh, it's
And I know I'm in a risk right now, right?
Yeah.
I feel the cold chill up my spine of like, yep, shields are down. Like,
Yeah.
we're standing out here in the water. Like, I really hope you come back to me. It's scary.
Yeah, I either have to say that this is a non-committed relationship,
Right.
or we have nothing at all.
Right, because what's my other option? To say, no, that isn't going to work for me. I decline.
Yeah.
Let's be in love.
Yeah.
I think
So-
I choose that.
So,
Door
yeah.
B.
Yeah.
Option 2. No, that they're telling you that's not available, and so
Yeah.
then you take
So
what
then-
is available,
Yep.
which is 10%.
Exactly.
Right, but then they're being kind. They're not, and there's and Blake. I go back to this idea of like you were deceived, and that's very tricky because it's so easy to castigate her and just paint her as a monster who's like treacherous and like all these horrible things. And like I that's what a friend's gonna do for you. That's what a family member's gonna do for you. That might even be what her family members do for you. I'm gonna struggle with that because like I humanize her. I understand that she's going through her own bewildered, reprocessing stages of stuff. And there's a part of me that understands that for her, she's trying to tell you, look, man, we're not 100 here. Like, but she's also not going to come out and be like, I'm kind of dabbling in another thing to see what happens with that. I'm organically feeling another relationship. That didn't feel right to her either. And probably because she cared for you, probably because you guys have a bond, probably because she is uncertain about what's going to happen and she's trying to play the field all at once. I'm not saying she was right, but I'm saying as a human, we can relate to the fact that she didn't know. It's kind of like when you're at one job, but then like you're interviewing for another job. And so you don't exactly go tell your current job that you're doing that because you really don't know how this is all going to turn out. But
Right.
you're kind of in that weird gray area where like I could piss off and hurt a lot of people right now.
For all you know, the person interviewing you could have been somebody that you blasted on Twitter.
Never know.
4 years ago.
Anything
Yeah.
could happen. It's a weird world out there, Blake. That's what we're saying. The other thing I wanted to say to you, the second point, if we were sitting in therapy and talking through these things, slowly and when you were ready, I would probably try to bring you to a narrative or a conclusion of maybe you were at that time looking for something that you needed from somebody who did not have it. Because oftentimes we will feel let down. We will feel like they stole from us. We will feel like they didn't ever care about us. You said that in your letter. You said one of the questions that still plagues me is like, was it all a lie? Did they never care for me? And one of the things I would probably nudge you toward is, look, it's very convenient to interpret everybody as like deliberately deceitful and it was a heist the whole time and we were a mark. And Blake, that's rarely the case. People are organically fumbling through life. They're trying their best. What probably was the reality is that, I use this metaphor all the time. You went looking for milk at the hardware store. And look, that's just, she didn't have it, and like, you're not bad for showing up there. We needed to reveal this. We need to reveal this is not in stock. This person does not have what you need, is not ready to give you that, but has other things that are a great relationship, but didn't have this. And you know what? You're not bad for wanting that. They're not bad for not having that. It is a very awkward situation when you show up there, you know, and looking for something that they don't carry. And it is weird. And it was. And, you know, that sometimes is the narrative that allows us to kind of step back and say, okay, you know, it's kind of a no-fault situation, even though it's still ugly and I got hurt, you know, and you're still entitled to that pain too, Blake. But all of us are in agreement. You didn't do anything wrong. Your crime here is being a sensitive person who had feelings for somebody else. And you know what? You got burned with that. And, you know, to your question, like, is this betrayal? Could it have been communicated? Look, yeah, you were double-crossed, you know, and it's an ugly situation here. I don't want that to destroy you. I want you to recover from this. If you're not already in care, I want you to make sure you're sitting down, you're talking through this stuff. Because look, if I've had people go through this, and like I already talked about earlier, I know I'm going to sit with that person for a while and just contemplate what the hell happened to them. Like a first responder on the side of the road with this person who just got, you know, absolutely rattled. They are talking through what just happened. And they need to orient to all of this, to make sense of all of this. And they might not get the answers to this mystery from the person who did this to them. And that's why we sit down and try to talk through it together so you can land on a place where you can accept the holes in the story, accept the things you don't know, narrate them in a new, more generous way, and ultimately walk away from it.
Mm-hmm.
But man, do people relate to your story here, Blake. A lot of people have been through it.
Yep.
Rooting for you, brother. I'm glad to hear that you're going to be supporting the show because I'd like to get you into the Discord. Because like I said, those who go to patreon.com/therapy at any level automatically get access to our Discord, which is a live chat room with all these different threads. One of them is always the show that is currently aired. And everybody there gets it a day early and gets to start chatting about it. And they have deep dive conversations about this. And lots of people who have written in questions to the show ultimately go to the Discord and have several hundred people who are part of that community start talking to them about the situation, giving them their personal advice, their relatable stories. And it's a very human community of support.
It's always better advice than what we give.
Always. I mean, God.
100% of the time.
We're really just the door to the Discord.
Yep.
That's all this really is at this point. They're more the value of what we do. But speaking to that point, just to remind everybody out there, you can go to patreon.com/therapy, and for as little as $1 a month, and with inflation, Lord, that's barely anything anymore. We do that just to invite you into the community. That's what we do. But for that $1, you can get these episodes without any ads at all. You won't ever bump into an advertisement. You also get it a day early. You get extra content, usually up to an hour sometimes of extra content that we do every episode. All of that comes for $1. You get into the Discord for $1, and you get to enjoy that community. It's up there 24 hours a day, people discussing all sorts of life, very nourishing, powerful area, all of that. And if you go at the $5 or higher level, you get access to our additional content, interviews, deep dives, research roundups, all sorts of just really great content, deeper stuff where you can study and understand more about this. But we definitely want to thank all of you who come down and support us. Now, this episode, we had to record back-to-back with last week's episode. So anybody who has joined us at patreon.com/therapy, remember that we will thank you immediately on our Twitter account at PodTherapyGuys. That's sort of the first place that we just announce it and thank you. But we will catch you on the next episode because if you've joined us since Monday, November 7th, we haven't caught it by now when we're recording this. So we've got to get that to you in the next episode to thank you.
And I've got an announcement. Just want to remind everybody the Pod Therapy Fitness Challenge.
Ooh.
We're going to start off 2023 right by fitness challenge in your life.
Yeah.
And
look at him. Look at him getting all markety. He's getting good at this.
Yeah.
I'm real proud of him, man. He's come a long way.
He's going to jelly that challenge right on up there.
So the fitness challenge is going to be 2 months. There's going to be basically with this fitness challenge, if you go to my website, which is mentalfitpersonaltraining.com. If you go on there up at the very top, you're going to see a little icon that will say something about Pod Therapy Podcast. Click on that. It'll take you to the fitness challenge. What you'll see if you go up there right now is it'll have all the details, and then it'll say available December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So in the month of December, it will go active, and you'll be able to actually sign up for it.
Awesome.
but nothing will happen until January 1st.
Yeah, it's new year, new
Yep.
you. But get in there and get signed up. That way it's
Yep.
all done. And then you're just on standby. You're waiting for it. You're going to get through the holidays. You're going to get to the new year. And then, boom, all this is going to open up and you're going to hit some momentum right away.
Exactly. So it's going to be 2 months. So we're going to do January and February. I was toying with the idea of doing like 2 different types of workouts, one that you can do in the gym, one you can do at home. I just decided I'm just going to do it all home-based.
Perfect.
So
All right.
everybody can do it.
Gyms are crowded anyway, first month of the year.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway. But yeah, it'll be 2 months. You'll have access to the app. Everything will go through the app, so it'll tell you what workouts you're going to do on what days. And then there's going to be some other bonus stuff in there too.
It's going to be great.
A lot of like blog type stuff. I've actually got a whole list of topics that I'm writing on currently that will basically just be uploaded into your app. So you've got all that, and there'll be a chat feature.
It's going to be awesome.
So you can talk
Get
about
healthy
that.
with friends. You know,
There you
start
go.
it with your community. I mean, you love the show. You love the people that, you know, are about this community. Let's do it together. Let's just all do it together. We'll
Yep.
start off 2023 healthier than we ended 2022.
And if you are a Patreon of the show, that will be free for you. That program will be free for you.
No.
It won't be free if you're a Patreon of the show?
No.
You're going to charge them if they're a Patreon?
Yeah, this is my. God, Jesus.
It's nothing to do with the show. This is Nick's side
Just
hustle.
going to kick me right in the balls.
He's just ruined it. He
On
just
the show.
torpedoed you right there.
Just
I'm telling you, man. He's a wild card. Never turn your back on Jacob. Never. You just never know. There's no
if you're
rules.
a Patreon of the show, Nick will
No.
pay you to do
Yeah,
this.
he's a fucking
No, he will
cobra
not.
in a cage. Never forget he could get you at any time. Always handle with care. So thank you to all the friends who support the show, and a special thanks, of course, to our Thera partner, Dirty B,
Thank
and
you.
of course all our Thera producers, those mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club. Talking about Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Smitty Scoop, Ben Don. I don't even want to say
Ben
his name.
fucking Don.
Oh, he gets applause drops now. I wonder who clicked that button. Judy Schneider, Kayla Lansbury, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Malia, Leon Kassab, Cindy Ash, Mason Miller, Richard Macy, Carolyn Albert, Kevin Chamberlain, Tess Miller, Newstick, Sammy Scoop, Ben Stanley slapping your face, Polygon, Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, University Jeff, Mike Helm, Myra, Paris, Samantha Cohn, Darren Cunningham, Lib, Team Monaco, Thunder, Cougar, Falcon, Scoop, Matt and Lisa Tangeman, and Heyo!
And if you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time we got for this week's session. Want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast. And thanks to all of you who wrote into the show today. Hey, we really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something to keep all to yourself. Share it out there on the social media and tag us when you do. It's at PodTherapyGuys on Twitter and Instagram. Just /PodTherapy on Facebook. And don't forget, you can find extra content at patreon.com/therapy.
And if you want to submit a question to the show, ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Rupert Holmes.
Thanks, and we'll see
And I
you
like pina
for your
coladas
appointment next week.
and getting caught in the rain.
In the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
I love that song.
I'm going to have to listen to
It's
it.
a great
really
song.
good.
I've never heard that song in
I'd
my
say
life.
we'll play it right now, but
We
we're
have to go to
burning
bed.
we're burning sun.
Yeah. We got to have some breakfast tomorrow morning.